Hi, in this video we demonstrate how to use a hostPath volume as a shared storage between the two containers of a pod. For the purpose of this demo, we've already configured a deployment. The deployment runs a pod, and the pod is configured with two containers and a shared volume. So the deployment operator is called the blue app. We will be using this to also generate later a green app deployment. But if you're scrolling down to the spec section of the pod template, right down here, we see that a volume has been defined, hostPath type. Two containers are defined, an nginx and a debian container. Both containers have mountPath directories, but they're both mounting the same host volume defined at the top here. Okay, so one volume defined, two containers, both mounting the same volume. Now, in addition, the Debian container is going to run a few commands. Okay, first it will create a file index.html in its own host volume directory, and in that file it will write some text. Welcome to Blue App. And then it will go to sleep indefinitely, otherwise the Debian container would terminate. And we don't want that, at least not as of yet. So now let's try to deploy this. So we're quitting Vim, and we'll run kubectl apply to create the deployment. But at the same time, we want to expose this deployment via a node port type service. The nginx web server of the deployment is already exposing port 80. So all we have to do is expose the deployment and specify that we want the node port type of service. With kubectl get deploy PO for pods and SVC for services, we can validate that our resources have been created. So the deployment is up and running with one pod replica. The pod, the blue app pod, is up and running with both containers ready, the nginx container and the Debian container as well. And then the service, blue app, has been created, and it is a node port type service. So now we can use the Minikube service list to display the URL of the node port type service. So either from the command line, we could run curl and paste the URL, and here it is. We have welcome to Blue App. And if we keep refreshing, we will consistently get the same response. Now, if we want to do this in a browser, we can right-click on this link, open link, and this will open a tab in our favorite browser. So for now, we've only set up the blue app, but as homework, I would invite you to set up a green app with pretty much the same way. Have a deployment called the green app. Configure it in such manner that the Debian container modifies the index.html file of your web server by using a shared volume. Okay. So basically, using the same pattern, we can easily configure a new application, which should be the green app. And then later we are going to play with services and deployments for a canary type of deployment pattern. Okay. So it's a very simple deployment. What is important is to make sure that in the template of the pod, we have a volume defined, and then the two containers, they're both mounting the same volume. Okay. Otherwise, they cannot share it. Otherwise, the Debian container cannot overwrite the index.html file, which is the home of the nginx web server. All right, so this concludes our demo. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see everyone in the next video.